What's up, photography world? Josh Ragazzo here from theshutterschool.com, and today we have a tutorial for you on how to take self-portraits. And the reason I decided to do this tutorial today is because I'm starting a new series on location hacking, and I want to be able to practice taking better photos in random locations. And I have this excuse of I have nobody to shoot me while I'm filming, and I have nobody to take pictures of, so how am I going to practice? And so I decided to eliminate that excuse by getting better at self-portraits. And so I decided to make that video for you guys, some tips and tricks on how to take some self-portraits so you no longer have an excuse on not practicing. Alright, and the location I chose for today's quick location hacking portrait is my front door. So real simple location in everybody's house, you have a front door, and often what's cool about your front door is it's the door to the outside, so you've got some nice window light coming in. It's a nice clean background, super simple space that you can use to take some basic headshot portraits. And so that's the location I'm using for this demo, and I'll show you the pictures that we make, and I'm going to show you a few different ways of making some portraits. So the hardest part with taking self-portraits is, one, you need to be able to see what's in the frame, you need to be able to see yourself, really hard to do, and you need to be able to focus and take the picture. So all of these little workarounds that I came up with are ways that you can kind of solve those problems. So the first step in taking self-portrait is you need to find out where are you going to shoot. So you kind of explore, take your camera out, look at the light, look at the background, and kind of get your composition with your camera first. And if you want to help pre-visualizing what your shot's going to be, you could use like a stuffed animal or something that you could put in the frame to kind of see how the light is falling and where to place yourself. And so start out, put something in the scene, kind of work the scene with your camera, and then once you decide on where your shot's going to be from, go ahead and set up your tripod, put it in the place that you've predetermined is going to look good, and then you can get started on your self-portrait techniques. So the first self-portrait technique, the one that's going to be most likely accessible to everybody, is the self-timer method. So what you can do is place a dummy or something in the frame, something like a stuffed animal, where you can go behind your camera and pre-focus, then turn your camera to manual focus, turn the self-timer on, and jump in the scene and take place in the stuffed animal. So that's obviously going to be very cumbersome. It's not the most ideal. It's going to make it a lot harder to practice because you're running back and forth. However, it's available to pretty much everybody if you have a camera with a self-timer. Now, if you're working on a cell phone, then you can put your cell phone on a cell phone tripod and then try to find an advanced camera app instead of your basic one that has a self-timer built in, and you could do the same thing. Alright, so in my scene, I notice I have this elephant on a stool, and that makes a relatively decent stand-in. I like stuffed animals and things like that because you can kind of see how the light would fall on them, so there's an advantage to using something that has some shape to it, is to be able to preview the lighting. So the main problem for me with using this as a stand-in is I'm much taller. So not a big deal. Well, all I have to do is focus on making sure that there's enough headroom above the stuffed animal to know that where I'm going to be I'm going to be like 2 feet higher. So when I focus on the elephant's face, it's still going to be the same distance from the camera as my face, so it really won't matter as long as I'm leaving room in the composition. So to review, basically you set up the stuffed animal or whatever you've got, something on a stool or on a chair to be the stand-in, so you can get your composition set up, get your pre-focus, and then what you need to do is hurry up, put your 10-second timer on, run in, move the stuffed animal, and stand in or sit in the exact same space. So it's going to be tricky, but you can make it happen. You can get yourself a nice portrait. Alright, so this second technique is very similar to the first one. However, it helps you kind of work around the height difference. So because I'm so tall and I wanted a portrait of me standing, having the stuffed animal sitting on a stool wasn't going to work. So another trick you can do is just take a light stand and put that in your spot. And that actually is really easy to move in and out of place versus like a stool, the stuffed animal, and whatnot. So I really like the light stand technique. If I've tried to pre-focus outside, trying to have some setups in the past, I'll just put a light stand, focus the camera, and then run and put the couple or myself in place of the light stand. And one little trick is sometimes the light stand, the tip of a light stand, is going to be hard to focus on, especially at night if you're doing night shots. So just having a small little Dixie cup or coffee cup or just something to place on top of the light stand gives you a bigger object to focus on. And then you can just do the same self-timer technique, run in, take spot of your light stand. Alright, so the first technique of using a self-timer is great, works for everybody. However, it's very cumbersome. If you want something more efficient where you can take lots of photos and not have to run back and forth, then getting a remote is the best way to go. Now, I've just got this Eidolon Pebble remote. It's got a receiver that you plug in to the back of the receiver, then to your camera, and then when I press this button, it'll focus, and when half press, just like your shutter, it'll focus, and then when you full press, it'll release the shutter and get a picture. So this is really nice because I don't have to pre-focus and mess with moving an animal or light stand in and out of the picture and running in 10 seconds and starting all over again. All I have to do is get in the frame, half press the button to where I know I'm in focus, and then move the trigger out of the way, maybe in my pocket, something like that, then press the button, and then I got myself a portrait. Now, the only trick here, the only problem with this would be if you want a more full-length shot and you've got the trigger in your hand. Well, what's cool about this particular trigger, it's got a 2-second shutter button. So that way I can focus, get ready to take the picture. You can hit the 2-second timer, throw it in your pocket, and then finish your pose, get yourself a portrait. Or you could do the same thing on your camera, put a 2-second timer. Because that 2 seconds is nice to not be annoying. You don't have to wait forever to get your photo, but it allows you to kind of keep moving, or it gives you a second to finish. All right, so the last technique, the last tool that you can use, and this is kind of the most advanced, I suppose, you're gonna have to have an actual DSLR camera most likely to do this, is the remote control app that comes with many different camera brands. Now, Canon, I believe, used to have one. I know I had it on my computer. It works. I don't know if there's a cell phone version, but I do know Sony, since I've been using Sony, they have the imaging resource app, which allows me to preview and press the shutter button and change some of the basic settings. And so the advantage of this is you can hop in your scene and pull up the imaging resource app window and then see your composition. So kind of the hard part of doing self-portraits is you have to guess what the shot's going to look like with you in it. But this lets you quickly do it, and it's also got a shutter button. So that way you don't have to buy the trigger. I like kind of doing a combination. If I need to check my framing, I'll do it on the imaging resource app, but then I can put this away. I know what the framing looks like, and then I can just go crazy with. So there you go. There's 4 different techniques for taking self-portraits, and now you don't have any excuse not to be practicing. Find a simple spot in your house, set up your tripod, get your timer going, or you get yourself a trigger, and go to town practicing on yourself. This is going to be the beginning of a new series I'm going to call Location Hacking, where I'm going to use my house and maybe some other random, very kind of plain, simple locations that don't seem that exciting, and I'm going to see what kind of great pictures I can come up with. And if I don't have a model available that day, I no longer have an excuse. I'm going to do self-portraits. Hopefully, for your sake, I can get some pretty models so you don't have to look at me all the time. So we're going to make a whole bunch of tutorials that'll help show you how to make great photos in any location using light, composition, and different tricks and techniques that you can kind of turn a boring place into an awesome portrait shoot. So thanks for watching, and see you in the next video.